Can you share a little bit with us, a little bit about yourself, Samantha?
Yeah, I'm from a small town in Oklahoma. I graduated, the town's called Marlow. So I grew up there, graduated there. There's about 4,000 people that live here. And there's not any like big cities any closer than like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes away. So it's really in the center of nowhere. Um,
Wow.
and I've been doing hair for 7 years now. And I actually grew up with both my parents kind of working in the industry.
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get into that a little bit. So yeah, I've learned that your mom was also a hairstylist and she also owned a hair school as well, a hair salon.
Yes. So
And
she,
okay, go ahead.
sorry, she owns a hair school today, but she did hair prior to owning that. So
Great. Yes, and your dad also owns a hair franchise as well, right? So you've
yeah,
had a huge connection to the hair industry. Like, what was that like growing up in that kind of atmosphere?
it was really like all that I knew. I would go after school to my mom's salon and kind of a little twist. I work in the building now that she used to work in.
Oh,
It's
wow.
That's still where I'm working at. And so I used to go up there after school every day and just hang out there until she was done working. And so it was really all that I knew. And I think that since they were both in the industry, it was kind of assumed by them and by everybody else that I was just going to follow suit.
And although you did eventually follow suit, you didn't originally start working in hair. You actually went to college for public relations. Can you explain a little bit why you decided to start off not in the hair industry?
Yeah, I think that the only real reason that I have is that I wanted to be my own person. And I chose public relations as a major because I liked the flexibility, the different careers that you could take. I didn't want to be just like have that one path to go down. I wanted to have options because I know that I don't know, I'm just more of a creative type person. And I knew that being in one job, like sitting behind a desk, that works for some people, but for me, my mind would have exploded. So I chose that as my major, and I really enjoyed it, but I didn't, I just couldn't figure out a job when it came time for that. And so that's kind of how it led me back to hair school.
And you kind of also use PR still as a hairstylist, as an entrepreneur, but we'll get into that a little bit later. When did you decide that you hit a little bit on it, but when did you finally be like, okay, I want to go into hair now?
Yeah, so I went the whole, I think I was there 4.5 years, and it was when I was looking for an internship that I came home and talked to my mom about what I should choose. There were a couple of different things I was thinking, but they all were 9 to 5. And I don't know, I just didn't like that. I didn't like Monday through Friday. I wanted more freedom. And my mom had kind of given up on suggesting cosmetology school because she had tried so much before. And it was in that moment that she kind of asked me what I liked about PR, and like the graphic design element was something I always liked about it. And I said, I don't know. I just like being creative. And she kind of smiled at me and she was like, well, you know what else is creative? Like you should maybe give it a second thought. And I was more receptive to it at that point.
That's great that she was supportive either way.
Yeah.
But for what I've learned about you is that your dad, even though he's in the hair industry, he wasn't as supportive as your mother was. How did that affect your confidence, starting off your career in hair and knowing that your own father was not as supportive?
Yeah, it was really, I don't know that I realized it at the time, but looking back, now that I've kind of evolved from it and grew from it, I know that although it wasn't in the front of my mind, it was always in the back. And so every single thing that I did, I always second guessed myself. And I kind of had this pressure in a way that I wanted to prove him wrong about what he had said. He told me that there was no way I was going to make a name for myself. There was no way that I was going to be able to succeed when there's so many hairstylists. And he told me that hairstylists cannot make any money and just all of these things. And so I found myself almost working around the clock in the beginning because I wanted to show that I could make money and that I could succeed. But I also think that it played a role in my life in other areas too, just the insecurities and things that it caused.
And did he share this when you decided you want to go into hair and you shared like, oh, I'm thinking about doing hair now? And that's when he expressed um, his opinions on you?
Yeah, so essentially I quit college, I guess, because I literally had an internship left. So I never actually like graduated, you know, and that's what he didn't like. But
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't, I don't know. I never even thought of it as like quitting. I had in my mind, I had completed the whole thing. And it's like I wasn't going to use my degree anyways. And so I didn't care about the status of having the degree. I put in the time, I made the friends, I had that experience, and I realized that that wasn't what I wanted to do. But that's kind of what upset him the most was that, you know, he was going to have to tell people that his daughter didn't graduate, which I don't know. I don't understand that. But we live in a world now where the beauty industry is such a big thing. And I don't know, as somebody that has worked with stylists for years and years, in my opinion, he should have known.
Right. And then did he eventually come around? Because obviously you've become really successful in your career and you saying that you worked around the clock. Did he eventually come around and be like, oh, I'm really happy that you're doing really well? Or was that not the case?
No, I don't doubt that he knows everything I've accomplished. We live in a small town again, and I still talk to my grandma, you know, and family members. And so I do believe he knows what success I've had in this industry. And no, but he has not ever reached out and congratulated me or anything relating to that at all.
And so it sounds like you guys do not have a relationship currently. So how was that to like what made you realize that like I need to cut off my relationship with my father?
I think that it just got old. The older I got, it wasn't something that had just happened with the college thing. It it had been a slow buildup since I was little. My parents got divorced when I was 2. And I think that as I got older and kind of had my own values and beliefs, that I just saw that that wasn't how you were supposed to treat people that you cared about. And so it did take a lot of failed attempts, I guess, before I finally just decided. But I think that, you know, just time is really the only thing that helped me decide it.
Mm. And do you have any advice on dealing with toxic people? Because clearly that relationship between your dad and you are a little bit toxic. So, what advice would you give others who are dealing with something similar to that?
I think that for me, and I think a lot of other people feel this way as well, is that you feel like your family has to always be in your life. And so we kind of seem to accept behavior that we wouldn't accept from friends or coworkers if it's from our family. And so my advice would just be to really sit and think about how you're feeling, and you have to put yourself first, or otherwise your mental health is going to just be really messed up and it's going to affect you in all areas of life. So you need to sit down and almost, I know it's kind of thought of as selfish to think about yourself, but that's really what you have to do today. And so don't let the whole family thing get in your way. Treat it just as if you would treat anyone else in your life.
And I don't think it's selfish to, end relationships with whether it's like a coworker or your father or a friend, because at the end of the day, it's like how you want your life to be. And if it's not a good thing to be in your life, you're having negative energy, I think it's okay to be like, no, I don't want this person in my life. And I don't think that's selfish at all.
Yeah, life is hard enough as it is. So
Right. You don't want any extra baggage with the already baggage that you already have, right?
you can't worry about opinions. I know that is easier said than done, but when you really, really start putting yourself first and thinking about it, I don't know. I just think you look at things differently. So it wasn't though until a year and a half ago that I actually hired someone that was working with me on getting over this imposter syndrome that I had, or all of this negativity and anxiety. But I think that the reflection is what helped me deal
Mm,
with toxic people online too, because yeah, the comment section can get brutal.
yeah, I know. It's really bad sometimes. um, we kind of touched a little bit on it, but did you feel any pressure to live up to your family's success when you started going into the hair industry?
I more so just felt pressure to prove that I could do something. So it wasn't their success. It was just I spent so much energy trying to prove myself to
Mm,
my dad, which is toxic in itself. Like that's a toxic pattern that you can develop if you have unhealthy relationships.
mhm. Um, and now that you've created a lane for yourself and using social media to amplify your knowledge and your business, and your skills that you've learned in school, like what prompted you to make that kind of shift and like really use, effectively use your social media?
Yeah, so I was kind of a little late to the game with social media. I didn't really start until like mid 2018, and I had just been watching so many other people get, I don't know the word I'm trying to say, but I was watching them live how I wanted to live, and seeing my ideal self, if you will, in those people, but I didn't know how to do it. And so I spent probably 6 months researching like what I needed to do and how to make content.
Mhm.
And I think that's the one con that I would say about living in a small area. I didn't have like a support system or mentors in this area. So I relied on the internet. And then I just decided to take the leap, and it really was just it took off from there.
So what did it take for you to really get your Instagram off the ground and start gaining followers? Was there like any like rules that you went by or a plan that you went by to make this happen?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I posted like every single day, I twice a day. Uh,
Mhm.
I still post about 6 days a week, usually, sometimes even seven. But I was posting 2 to 3 times a day back then, and I was also spending every. I'm really not being dramatic when I say this, but every free moment that I had, I was spending it doing research, taking photos, taking videos, because it was hard for me. It
Mhm.
was really, really hard for me to get in a routine that I wasn't used to that. We're not photographers or videographers. And
Right.
I think that that's the hardest part, just getting started and getting that confidence and the routine going.
So did you have to make like, I'm assuming you're making a bunch of videos at once. That's what I'm assuming. Did you like make like 15 videos in like 2 days so you can spread it out, or was it like you gradually made videos?
So now I batch my videos, but I wish that I would have like recorded myself in 2018 when I was doing it, because a video, I was talking to another person about this the other day. A video used to take me like 4 or 5 hours, and now it takes me like 10 minutes. So no, I like really, but I think that circles back into all of the negative energy that I was dealing with and the insecurities. So I would just nitpick my videos to death. And if I saw any little thing wrong,
Right.
which of course, like there still is things wrong. I've learned that I'm not perfect. That's okay. No one is. And I promise, like to anyone listening, you are your own biggest critic with your videos and your content. And so just that routine, if you can master that and really master getting rid of the perfectionist mindset, it's so much easier.
And then how do you approach creating content for IG versus TikTok? Because you're a big following on both of those platforms, and I'm wondering if you use different tactics for both of them.
Yeah, so TikTok was a little bit, I didn't really hop on that trend very early. And that was another thing that, I don't know, it just felt intimidating to start from zero and work up. I know that so many people also feel that way. So I didn't, again, I just watch people and watch people. But as the app took off and as I started seeing hairstylists on there more and more, and that it wasn't just this younger platform, that was kind of the rumor in the beginning.
Right.
I told myself I need to hop on this. So, if anything, I would say that um, people more so will watch longer videos on TikTok,
Mm.
at least my following, than they want more quick videos on Instagram.
That makes sense. And is there a difference in how you cater to two different beauty communities on these platforms?
No, I kind of just reshare whatever content I've made from Instagram, but I will sometimes put the longer form on TikTok, or sometimes I'll even try to play around with doing shorter form. It's really just kind of a learning your audience and figuring out what works for you, because both platforms are so unique to the individual page. And so you almost can't rely on websites or anyone that's giving you tips, because everyone's is so different.
Yeah, that's true. But that's good to know if there's any fans of yours that's on IG who like, I need longer content, they can now go to TikTok and get that longer content.
Follow me on TikTok.
What are some of the great opportunities that you received since starting your pages?
So many opportunities. I always say this, but being from a small town, I truly do believe social media is the reason that I've had every opportunity in the hair industry. I used to just think that you had to know somebody that knew somebody else, and I didn't have that. And so I think it is what I owe all of the glory to, if you will, to behind the chair team and Salon Centric. And I just got to teach a social media class at Premier Orlando, which was awesome. And just the people I've met, the friendships and relationships that I've made from the app, it's crazy. I talk to some of those people like every day.
Yeah, that's the power of social media is insane. I hear that all the time. What are some of the lessons you've learned from creating your own brand on social media that can probably help someone that's a hairstylist that wants to do something similar to what you're doing?
What I've learned the most is it's helped me evolve in the weirdest type of way. It's helped me almost therapeutic to me, because it has shown me how to stop critiquing myself, and how that it's okay to put yourself out there and to be brave and to be vulnerable. That actually people like that. They like you to tell them, the struggles as well as the successes, because I think it's easy to look at anyone's social media that has a larger following and just assume that their life is perfect behind the scenes, when every single person just has their own unique story. And I think that the minute you put yourself out there online, and the minute that you do the thing that you really want to do, you grow so much from it.
Mm. And that's why I'm so appreciative that you shared your story about dealing with your father and how it wasn't a healthy relationship, and that you decided to end your relationship with him, because I'm sure that people watching you think you have like this perfect life, and you still do, I'm sure you do, but you've had your ups and downs, and how you've managed that and still have this incredible career. I think that's really inspiring for a lot of people to hear. What are some of the cons that you figured out while trying to create your brand on social media?
I was thinking about this. Maybe the only con that I can think of is that I spent so much time in the beginning, especially on the app, that I kind of missed out on real life.
Mm.
However, I was on the app I was in, not to get into this, but I was in an unhealthy marriage at the time as well. And so I didn't have a social life or like a support system at home. And so I just dove into that app the minute I walked through my door. Whereas now I have set times that I'm on there and that I'm still able to go watch my niece and nephew, go to dinner with my boyfriend, like spend time with my family and pay attention to what's in front of me versus diving into this app that has so much good, but it's like you can't get lost in it, you know?
So true. I do want to go back to a little bit about like your personal life and hearing also you've had like difficulties with an ex-husband. Have you created a tribe for you since in the last few years?
Like a group or something.
Yeah, people who like rally for you. I don't know if it's all on the internet, if there's other stylists that you've been able to meet over the few years.
No, I mean, I got to share a little bit about my story at the Behind the Chair show last year. And so I've had people reach out to me and just go back and forth, kind of vent, or us just tell our stories to each other. And then I also shared a story on my YouTube channel last summer that talked about it too, and I've gotten a lot of response from that. But that's something that I've really been thinking about as well, because it's something that I think would have helped me out a lot in the moment,
Hmm.
having that community.
Right. And I'm sure it's only grown so much since then because of your online presence. What are three core pieces of advice that you would give a stylist that's watching this right now who wants to have a social media presence?
This sounds crazy, but just to do it, like I spent so much time researching what camera to use, and now I use my phone. So don't overthink that. Just I heard someone say the other day that good enough is good enough, and that is so true because everyone thinks they have to have this A+ content, but every single person, I should actually go back and share my first video. Like it's got to be cringy. So just do it would be the first thing, and find somebody that can be a mentor or a guide to you and bounce ideas off them or ask for support, because sometimes that can give them that push. And also to just set aside time to be creative,
Mhm.
because I think sometimes it's intimidating when you get home from work and your kids are screaming at you for dinner or your husband wants to hang out or something like that. I think that having that designated time to be creative, whether it's an hour a day, 30 minutes, even if it's once a week, that helps so much.
And you mentioned that you come from a small town. How did you find a mentor?
So I'm telling you, whenever all of the COVID lockdowns happened, I had just gotten a divorce like 3 or 4 months before that, like a very, very not good situation. And I needed help. Like I was, all of a sudden, my world had stopped and I was having to, leading up to that, my way to avoid hurting and feeling stuff was to avoid it, to work, to
Mhm.
keep busy, you know? And
Mhm.
all of that was not there for me anymore. Everything was frozen and I couldn't go to work. So I started like researching different people out there that I could talk to. And I came across someone that had helped a couple of people I knew with their fear of public speaking. And I reached out and just went ahead and paid for him to work with me. And I knew if I paid for it without thinking about it, I would do it. So
Mhm.
I kind of just, I guess, desperate times make you do things that you're scared to do.
Mhm. And my last question for you, what are you hoping for the next like 3 years, 5 years in your career?
So I said earlier that I taught a class at Premier Orlando. I had never done a social media class alone. And I had, of course, done like color classes with maybe an hour segment or 30 minutes of social. But I truly came, like, it's my passion. I saw myself come alive almost at Premier Orlando. And so, in the next, maybe even in the fall, I'm going to try to go around and do a lot of social media classes and really focus on helping other stylists out there gain that confidence and gain that, um, like, overcome their fears and kind of be for them the person that I needed back then.
That's great. And you've heard it here first at the Tease. You
Yeah.
can look out for Samantha's tutorials, classes, to jump on it. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your story, to give advice to other hairstylists and give advice to anyone that's going through any really difficult relationships with people that they know.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for giving me this platform to talk about it and for having me on here. This is awesome.